Well, here goes, everybody. My name's Reg. I'm an injured worker. I fell in May of 2007, approximately 18 feet onto asphalt. Received multiple soft tissue injuries from basically from my head to my toes. Some of which were my back and my right shoulder, which was dislocated and eventually required surgery. My story is pretty much the same as everybody else out there. The whole deal with WorkSafe is it starts out okay. It's almost like they suck you in. You know, they lead you to believe that, you know, they kind of got your back for you. Anyhow, about a year into the deal, when my back wouldn't get better, and there had been some tests done, and I had tried. I'd gone through a OR2 program and a graduated return to work and couldn't complete it. Then I was put into an OR1 program right away thereafter, and another graduated return to work and couldn't complete it. At that point in time, WorkSafe said, well, your back isn't a problem. At least it's not our problem. You must have had a pre-existing problem, and we're not going to take the responsibility for this. Well, I've never had a back problem. I've never missed a day of work because of a back problem. I've never had, really, to speak of, any back pain. All of this to them is irrelevant. So for the last year, after fighting with WCB and being cut off and doing the appeals and whatnot, scheduled for a WCAT tribunal here fairly shortly, within the next 2 to 3 months. And in the meantime, been fighting with Blue Cross to try and get my disability insurance to kick in through my employer. We have short and long-term disability available. Well, I applied for disability right after being cut off from WCB. Pretty much the way it unfolded was any information that I gave them was completely irrelevant. Any letters from my doctors was completely irrelevant. Any letters from physiotherapists, anybody I could think of was irrelevant. They pretty much pulled my file from WCB and made their decision according to that. I just about gave up. I applied and it was turned down. I applied again, it was turned down again. Anyhow, this went on for basically 10 months, at which, you know, at one point I had pretty much given up. I thought, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I thought, no, you know, I'm entitled to this. We paid for this. I'm going to fight for this. So after 10 months, I finally get a decision back. Yes, you've been approved for short-term disability, which has a total life of 6 months, but so they wrote me a check retroactive for 6 months worth of disability. The ironic part is disability is actually less than EI, and so I end up paying it all back to EI, but that's fine. You know, again, it's bought and paid for. We're entitled to it, and I'd rather collect that money than burn up all my EI. So I'm in the process now of applying for long-term disability, and we'll see how that goes. The long and the short of the whole thing is, I guess the one thing that a couple things. This has been a huge eye-opener for me. I never, ever, ever, ever would have believed that this was the way things worked. That, the honest, hardworking guy, and no judgment on anybody out there. I'll just tell you my story. I've never collected EI before this happened. I've never been on WCB. I've never not been able to work. And all of a sudden I find myself in this situation. And they don't give a shit. They don't look at you and go, hey, this guy's obviously not a user of the system or anything like that. It's one of those things. You find out that as far as they're concerned, we're all criminals. Every one of us. If we get hurt on the job, we're a criminal. Though at least they're going to treat us like one and hope to hell we go away. The ignorance around this whole thing is just astounding. Nobody out there knows what injured workers go through. Nobody out there has any, I don't know, unless you live it. Nobody knows, or if you have a friend maybe that goes through it, you might have a better understanding. But this whole thing is fun in some way that while there's people that abuse it, and obviously that's where the problem comes in. You know what? Nobody in their right mind would do this, to end up in this situation, to go through family problems and depression and financial stress and you name it, everything else that goes with it, because we figured we're going to win the lottery. Give me a freaking break. We live, most of us, after an injury that's this traumatic. I know I certainly do. We live with chronic pain. We live with the inability to sleep a good night's sleep. We live with disabilities of some sort, not being able to do hobbies that we used to do before, not being able to go out there and work for a living and feel like we really belong, and that we, if we're not part of the way everything else is, then we really